shoulder, so I just want to talk for a couple of seconds.
No, we're just making a test on it.
Oh, okay, fine. And if you want to, while we're still talking, if you just want to run off some
Okay.
B-roll kind of stuff, okay? Okay. That left mainstream was, what was the survival?
Left main stem,
Stem.
STEM, yeah.
Yeah.
Triple was 79%. And here, at least at left main stem, was 85% survival versus 20% survival. And this is at the
Does
7 to
age
10
enter
year.
into this at all? Does general
Well,
health of the interview that the
Okay.
average viewer is not going to understand, so I don't know how we...
All right. No. Well, I think that the point is that we don't operate on many chronic stable angina patients either.
Oh.
In other words, why they come to surgery is that they may have angina for some time, or they never had it at all, and all of a sudden it starts. So that's not chronic stable angina. In other words, if the fellow has had a heart attack and he's going along and he's feeling fine and he's no different now than he was 3 years ago, we're not seeing too many of those.
Stand by. 5.
Okay, we're going to do an interview in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Dr. Magovern, I'd like your opinion of the VA study that was just recently published in the New England Journal of Medicine. Excuse me, I'm sorry, we have to start all over again. I'm
you
sitting
want
on
to
I'm
hit right
sitting
in
on the
there.
mic cord.
Oh.
Okay. Sorry. Why did you say I moved my head in too close?
Yeah, when
anyway?
you went up to the
Okay, I
microphone
won't.
before,
Okay,
you're all right
okay.
now.
We'll do it again in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, doctor, I'd like your opinion of the VA study.
Well, I think it tends to an oversimplification, first of all, of a very involved subject. And by its very nature, it was performed at 13 different VA centers by some 50 different surgeons at a time when the techniques of the operation per se were not nearly as well developed as they are at the present time. The other aspect of it is that it was, by definition, a highly selective group of patients in the sense that it was done on what we call chronic stable angina. That means patients who really are not having an awful lot of difficulty or changing in their symptoms. And they eliminated the very serious patients of one which we would call pre-infarction, those who by clinical signs and symptoms we feel are about to have a heart attack. They have eliminated the patients who have obstruction in the very beginning of the artery, which they, as a matter of fact, they started keeping those patients in that study, and the mortality with the medical treatment in that group was so high that they, by their conscience, got to them, and they had to drop them out of that whole study. So I think you're talking about a rather select group of patients, and it needs a lot further definition.
Doctor, the simple bottom line to the study that was released is that coronary bypass surgery does not necessarily prolong life. Now, your research, your experience here contradicts that, am I right?
Yes, it does. Not only at Allegheny, but I think throughout most of the city, at the other hospitals that are doing a large volume of it here, and throughout the country. And last week there was a symposium held in Cleveland in which some 30 different institutions collaborated, and their figures on survival after bypass graft surgery were tremendously impressive. If one required a single graft, they had a 90% 10-year survival. A double graft was 85. A triple graft was about 79% survival. And in the left main stem, they had, again, 87% survival. Now, that's in contrast, and there was another study from the University of Oregon, which was 6-year follow-up, with almost identical results.
Doctor, the study was conducted between the years of 1970 and 1974. Have not techniques changed since that time?
Considerably so, yes. I think one thing that we're doing is to make every effort to preserve the heart to preserve the function of the heart during the surgery. And one technique that we use is using what we call a stabilizing solution, which stabilizes the metabolism of the heart. And in addition to that, we reduce the temperature of the heart to 15 degrees by using a solution of the stabilizing solution, which is infused into the coronary arteries at 4 degrees, and it cools the heart down, stops it. Every 20 minutes we reinfuse that, and we can literally go for an hour and a half to 2 hours with absolutely no blood supply to the heart, do this surgery, and have this heart start up right off. As soon as you ask it to start functioning, it will go. The other thing I think that has come about now is that we are doing more and more complete revascularization. In '72, the great percentage of our patients would have 1 or possibly 2 grafts. Now, I would say the great percentage of our patients have 2, 3, 4, and occasionally 5 grafts. And I think this more complete revascularization has, again, will make a big difference in the future, has made an immediate difference because we are getting additional blood supply to the heart muscle.
Give me a 2 shot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're not recording now. We just need this
Okay.
Okay. I think we covered it. I think the only thing in addition I might want to do is ask Dr. Begg how how patients are selected
Yeah.
for surgery.
That's great. Okay.
And then that would just, I think, do the whole story. Okay.
Give me a 5.
Okay, we'll do an interview in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Dr. Begg, I'm interested in knowing how you select patients who are candidates for coronary bypass surgery here at Allegheny General.
The basic technique is to do coronary arteriograms, and the premise behind that is to take pictures of the arteries by special X-ray features, and then we select people that we consider high risk depending on the amount of disease and the number of blocks they may have in their coronary arteries. These people are usually sent in because of a serious problem, and they're selected by their doctors who are having problems either managing them medically or making a proper diagnosis. So the basic underlying technique is to delineate how bad the coronary disease is, and that's done by a special X-ray procedure. Now the problem with this is that the symptoms may be only the tip of the iceberg. The patients may be relatively asymptomatic and have very serious disease. But in our experience, most of our patients are either incapacitated or very symptomatic before they face the coronary bypass graft procedure. Just a figure that might be meaningful to you. I looked at our own figures, and we've done 10,000 procedures, coronary angiograms, and 1 out of 5 have gone to surgery. So it's a very super selected, careful analysis between the cardiologist and our cardiology team and the surgical team, Dr. Magovern's team, for instance. So this is a very carefully selected group of people. So 1 out of 5 out of 10,000, you can see a lot of thought is put in for the selection of people for our bypass grafts.
In 5.
We'll do a cutaway in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Dr. Magovern, to put it simply, the VA study indicates that patients who have undergone coronary bypass operations have not survived any longer than those who have not. Now, your experience and research here at Allegheny General contradicts this, does it not? Another cutaway in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Doctor, the study was done between the years of 1970 and 74. Have the techniques changed much since that time? Okay, we'll do what I'm going to call a bridge in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Another important question is how patients are selected as good candidates for coronary bypass surgery. Okay, that's good enough. That's okay.
thôi đặt tay tức là mình xài miệng mà lên xài nhé hold up right up
Just a moment, just take notes.
okay that's it
It's okay.
oh my god tape
No, it's...
oh that's good right there right just like that
Stand by now. Take roll, Jim. Take roll.
We're going to do an opening in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're about to see some dramatic film of open heart surgery, a procedure performed more than 50,000 times every year in the United States, and the subject of recent controversy among medical men.
Homewood. It will be up to the PUC to decide whether or not it wants to grant Knox certificate 4, 3, 2, 1. The general feeling of the people at today's hearing is that it's particularly hard to get a cab, especially if you're black and you want to go to Homewood or the Hill. It will be up to the PUC to decide if it will grant Knox a certificate to operate in those areas. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The general feeling of the people at today's hearing is that it is really very difficult to get a cab, particularly if you're black and especially if you want to go to Homewood or the Hill. It will be up to the PUC to decide if it will grant Knox a certificate to operate in those areas. Judith Fielder, Eyewitness News. Silas Knox wants a certificate to open a cab company. Close. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Silas Knox wants a certificate to operate a cab company. Pittsburgh is already served by Peoples and Yellow Cab. Knox says those companies don't serve the whole community.
And examined the heavens, they didn't rise as high as the others did. But those who examined the heavens, they studied the heavens and they learned astronomy. And astronomy improved their knowledge of geography. By studying the stars, they learned how to move better on the earth. You see? All right. So when we talk about heavens in the symbolic language of Scripture, we're not always talking about a spiritual condition or a moral condition. We are talking about leadership. And there's a certain kind of leadership that loses its connection with the earth. Mountains represents authority too, but mountains are connected with the earth. Governments, they stay connected with the earth. But some church people, some synagogue people, some mosque people, some others, they lose that connection with the earth. They rise above the earth and there's a great separation between them and earth. They are floating in the air of spirituality and emotionalism. Is that right? All right. So God says, I don't want that kind of heaven. I don't want that kind of leadership. God says, I'm going to make a new heaven and a new earth. God says, I'm going to bring the city out of the sky down to earth. And that city in Revelation is called New Jerusalem. Is that right? And the people in New Jerusalem, they don't have the lights above them. They have the lights with them. Says he'd be dressed in the sun and have the moon and the stars in his crown. Is that right? What does this mean? I'm going to leave you in just a few minutes. But what does this all mean? It means that God is not going to stand for people to hoard knowledge and wealth and deprive the many of it, that you're going to have to give it up. Most of these religious orders, institutions, and the religious orders, they are hoarders of knowledge. You have to get into their secret order, and they give you a little bit at a time. Jesus was not one belonging to a secret order. Jesus preached out openly. And he didn't pick the people he preached to. He gathered disciples, but he said, now let us go to the poor. Let us go to the lowly. Let us go to the meek. Let us give this, be charitable. No church should be able to feel secure holding knowledge back from the masses and saying it follows Christ. How can you follow Christ if you talk in Greek alphabets to the masses, but you know the translation of those Greek alphabets? Translate your talk. Church,